Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Here we go. Karen complains that we don't have many spice-free options for her. So a bit of backstory for you. I used to work in this restaurant, serving Southeast Asian cuisine. Now, a restaurant isn't obligated to cater towards every customer's allergies. We were nice enough to do our best with everything that was thrown at us. Mostly we get a no cilantro or no garlic and such. But occasionally we get a few more unusual ones like allergies against red food. It has to do with the substance that makes the food red, for example, a red chili. We'd get everything from 5 to 15 different allergies a day depending on which day it was. Side note, there's something about the full moon that brings out all the whack jobs and Karens that really shouldn't be in a restaurant. It's like they all get together and decide that they're all going to go to the fanciest place in town and bug the crap out of us. It's quite hilarious. People with unusual and extensive allergies are usually pretty humble and are just grateful that we'll be able to fix something for them. But this one night, we get this Karen walking through our doors. I'd spotted her the second she walked through that door. The hair, the entitlement, total Karen. I'm expecting her to be rude and a bit condescending. Nothing that I haven't seen before. And of course, she's seated in my section. I put on my usual service smile and go over there to take their order. They're all very nice and order our most popular foods and drinks. Then I get to Karen. We serve menu-based food primarily, but we also have an a la carte menu. As a rule, if the table wants to order a menu, the whole table has to order the same, with the exception of allergies or moral preferences like veganism and such. If there is allergies that can be accommodated in the menu, then they'd all be eating basically the same thing. We accommodate all. Karen starts to list all the things that she's allergic to and all her other food preferences. The list is longer than the whole table's order. There are a couple of allergies that give me red flags, allergies that make sure there's not a single dish on our menu, let alone the specific menu she wants that she can eat. I inform her of this and tells her I'm going to talk to the kitchen and see what we can do. Since she's allergic to basically every spice used in Asian cuisine, including a lot of vegetables and protein substitutions we use in vegan foods, she can't have anything. The kitchen's kind enough to take ingredients that we have and make a new dish for her. It's just plain white fish, a bit of veggies, and rice. She can't eat anything else. I go back to Karen and explain to her the situation, telling her the one dish we're able to do for her. She tells me that's fine. And here I am, foolish enough to think that this wasn't a Karen at all. She seemed to be okay with what little we were able to do for her. We have runners working in the restaurant, going out with the food and explaining what everything is, clarifying the allergens in it, so as to make sure that Karen knows that this isn't for her. As I wasn't the one to go with the first dish to the table, I get this nervous younger guy, let's call him Joe, who's worked there for just a few weeks, coming up to me, clearly distressed, telling me that Karen's upset. When I go to talk to Karen, she tells me that she doesn't understand why she didn't get anything to eat yet. I explained to her that because of her allergies, we're only going to be able to make one dish for her. Therefore, she'll not be getting 7 smaller dishes, but rather 1 large dish instead. The first dish is just a little snack, and she'll be getting her dish at the same time as the next dish on the menu for the rest of the table. She seemed to have calmed down a bit, and I go back to tending on my other tables. The second dish goes out to the table, and as soon as I see Joe almost running towards me, I know that I'm in for another treat with Karen. I go back to the table and have Karen asking, what is this that she's eating? Why isn't she eating the same as the rest of the table? I list all the allergens in the food that she can't eat and explain to her that we can't make that dish without those ingredients. She dismisses me, clearly still upset, but there isn't much I can do here. The night goes on, and I've had to talk to Karen at least 5 times already. Then dessert time rolls around, and I'm just happy that soon this round of guests will be done, and the next will come rolling in. I go to Karen's table to clear everything off and offer some dessert wine and such. I put out the cutlery for everyone except Karen, that won't be having any dessert. I decide that since Karen's been a pain all evening, I'm going to go with the dessert to the table to spare Joe being traumatized again. And of course, who's unhappy yet again if not Karen? Once again, I have to explain to her that because of her long list of allergies, we don't have any dessert for her, and with dessert, we can't just whip something up like we did with the food. Now Karen's had enough. The magical mantra of the Karens ring true, I want to speak to the manager. I call out my boss, who calmly talks to her, explaining why things are the way they are. And these words that Karen is saying are unbelievable. She is so mad that we haven't been able to accommodate her better. Luckily, it didn't get to the point where a Karen would threaten suing or anything, mainly because suing is not a thing in Sweden. My boss handled Karen like, well, a boss. After explaining to her that we didn't have to accommodate her and we had done everything we could for her since she didn't call ahead and ask us about her allergies, her not accepting any of it, my boss says the most savage words I've ever heard him say to a guest. Why did you think that going to a Southeast Asian restaurant was a good idea when all you eat is potatoes, chicken, and some canned beans? If you're not happy with the food that we went out of our way to fix for you, you can honestly just pay and go. One little note that I'm sure any other Swede here would appreciate, Karen was Danish and had also complained about the fact that we couldn't talk Danish to her. Karen, you're in Sweden. We can promise you Swedish or English. We have no obligation to speak to or even understand you when you talk like you constantly have porridge in the back of your throat. Kindly never return. And our next story. Entitled mom insists it's okay for her kids to play on my property. Long ago, I owned a house that had an array of beautiful oleander trees. In case you aren't aware, oleanders are poisonous to both animals and humans. We didn't care, though. We don't have kids, and our dogs don't go in the front yard. They'd been planted years before, so they were mature trees that bloomed beautiful white flowers. A few blocks from my house, a coworker of mine lived with his wife and 2 kids. He was a nice enough guy, but his wife, EM, was a total B, and I was not a fan. She was petty, childish, and know-it-all, and believed her children could do no wrong. One of her favorite daily activities was to put the kids in a red wagon and walk around the neighborhood. When we moved in, they decided to alter their route so they would pass our house. Of course, we didn't know that. All I know is that one day my doorbell rang, and there they were. I should begin by saying I'm not the kind of person who appreciates someone who just drops by. Call or text first. Give me some time to say yes or no, clean my house, or put on pants, so I'm probably not wearing any. Normally, if someone comes by without a call first, I don't answer the door. But since I was new to the area and I worked with the husband, I figured I'd go outside and be social. The first thing I see when I go outside are the kids under the oleander tree. Me. Wait, that's an oleander tree. EM looks at the kids who are picking up flower petals and putting them in little piles on the grass. Oh, they're fine. Me. Oleanders are poisonous. Maybe you didn't know. They shouldn't be touching anything that comes from that tree. EM. I've never had them get sick from one. Me. It just takes one time. I'm confused by how little she seems to care. At this point, I'm done because it's a liability to me if something happens to these kids. EM's the type of person who would sue. I don't trust her as far as I can chuck her red wagon. I make up an excuse and go back inside, and they finally leave. The next day, they're back, but I don't answer the door. My car is clearly in the driveway. Hiding behind my blinds, I watch as the kids play around in the shade by the tree like before. Mom and Dad standing in my yard, oblivious to anything but their phones. They're there nearly an hour before they finally leave. This happened 3 more times, and each time they would ring the doorbell more, text me and call, asking me to come out and say hello. Each time I ignored it, hoping they'd get the hint. They did not. The next day I'd had enough. As usual, as soon as they got near our yard, the kids hopped from the wagon and ran to the tree. I came out of the house. Me. Hey guys, I'm going to have to ask you to not let your kids play with that tree. EM. What? Why? Me. Because like I told you the other day, it's poisonous. EM. They're here every day and they're fine. Me. It's not the point. The point is that if they do get sick, I'm responsible since it's my tree. EM. They're just kids. Let them play. Me. This isn't an effing toy, EM. This is a serious illness and possible death we're talking about. I'm surprised you don't seem to care that it could put your children in danger. EM, now looking PO'd. Of course I care if they're in danger. I just think you're overreacting. Me. Regardless, please put them back in the wagon and don't allow them to do this again. I'm not comfortable with it. EM looks at her husband. I thought you said she was cool. Why is she being such a bee to our kids? Husband shrugs and looks away. He's on a very short leash, and she's the one holding it. I'm disgusted at him for not saying anything. EM's now sneering at me. I was so happy when you moved in, I thought we could be friends. But clearly that's not the case since you're so unfriendly. I don't feel welcome here at all. I'm thinking, good. And I certainly don't want my children around someone like you. She packs up the kids, all the while telling them I'm mean and won't let them play there anymore. I looked at the husband for some backup, but nope. He's looking at the ground and waiting to do whatever EM says next. Pathetic. And our last story. HOA versus U.S. military. Grab some popcorn because I got a wild story for you. This one's about a soldier, a crazy HOA, and some sweet, sweet revenge. Our man, a responsible soldier who owned a nice place in an HOA neighborhood, paid all their bills on time, the whole 9 yards. Then they got deployed. You'd think their house would be safe, right? Wrong. While our man was out there serving the country, the HOA folks pulled a fast one. They went ahead and sold the soldier's house. Can you believe it? It's like kicking someone's puppy while they're helping an old lady across the street. Imagine coming home from deployment thinking about your own bed and maybe a Netflix binge, but surprise, your house is sold and someone else is chilling on your couch. But wait, it gets better. Our soldier was still paying HOA fees while away. Cue the JAG, Judge Advocate General's Corps, basically the legal avengers. They're like, HOA, you've messed up big time. But the HOA, they ignored the warning. Rookie mistake. So it's lawsuit time. Turns out the HOA broke not 1, not 2, but 11 federal laws. The judge must have had a field day with this. The soldier wins $1.7 million and gets their house back. Talk about a plot twist. Our soldier gets their home back, probably with a few HOA board members' tears on the welcome mat. Those board members had to sell their own homes. Karma, am I right? The HOA dissolved like a villain in a superhero movie. Last I heard, those HOA board members might be getting cozy in jail cells. The takeaway? Don't mess with our troops, especially when they have legal superhero friends. So that's the story, Reddit. A soldier, against all odds, takes down the big bad HOA. Pretty epic, huh? Drop your thoughts below. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.